Good morning, it's Ian Koniak, and today I'm going to introduce you to a new concept that I call the 3 Ps of closing. These 3 Ps are the key ingredients that you need in order to close any kind of strategic or complex deal. So let's dive in. The 3 Ps are power, pain, and process. Now, I'm going to go through each of these in detail and give examples of when you have them and when you don't and what they look like. And stay tuned to the end because I'm going to give you a free training resource that you can use to assess your deals and whether they're likely to close and identify key gaps. So let's dive in. The first P is called power, and that is by far the most important. And that's really simple. It's exactly what it implies. Are you working with power? Now, how do you know what you're working with power? It's very simple. They have the ability to sign off on the contract. You're working with the signer or the economic buyer. It's used in some terms, okay? If you're not working with them, you have access to power. So you're working directly with power or you have access to power. Not access through your champion, but access directly, meaning that your champion is putting you in front of the people that can sign. If they're not putting you in front of the people who can sign and they're saying, yeah, I got this, I got control, but they can't sign, you're not working with power. So you got to vet that out early and say, who else, if everything looks good, if we find that this is mutually beneficial, we do a business case, who needs to sign off? Who needs to be involved? And they say, it's just me and it's a manager level. I can tell you 100% of the time that that's not true. They need to get other people. So you got to really vet that and make sure, because generally managers levels can't sign off on large complex deals, especially if they have to enroll other people in using or adopting the solution. So that's the first one, is power. If you're working with power, the deals compress in speed and size. And I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but that will determine, I would say 9 out of 10 times, if your deal doesn't close, it's because you're not working directly with the decision maker. That above and beyond all other determinants is the single biggest indicator of whether a deal can close or not, is are you working with people who actually have the power to drive change? The second P is pain. And this one is really simple. Are they in pain? If someone says, I'll give you a simple example. Ian, we want to deploy Untap Your Sales Potential to our sales team. I'll say, why? Well, they don't really have good strategic skills. We want to teach them strategic selling. We want to teach them value selling. We want to teach them how to multi-thread. That all sounds good. Why? Well, because we're losing large enterprise pursuits and we need to up-level our team. Okay, well, how often are you losing these pursuits? Have you looked at your win rate on these pursuits? Yeah, we're only winning 25% of that, the large deals. Okay. What's the average deal size? Well, the average deal size for our large pursuits is $250K. So how many of these do you have every single month over $250K? Well, we have about 4 pursuits a month that we're chasing. Now we're talking some pain. We have a $750,000 problem. Even if we can take that win rate from 25% to 50%, that still represents $250K per month in additional revenue, or $3 million per year, just by doubling their win rate from 25 to 50%. If we teach those skills, $3 million per year. If they have 50% profit, that's a $1.5 million impact to their bottom line profitability. So now there's pain. You follow what I just did? You're digging and you're digging. And when someone tells you a problem, instead of raising your hand and saying, here's the solution, you say, well, why is it a problem? What's the impact of the problem? You got to get to pain. If you're not convinced the problem is serious enough for them to actually put in the effort to change, because any kind of solution you have, even training, is a big change, then it's going to stall later on. It's not going to go anywhere, because change occurs when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of changing. Deploying software is a pain. You've got to train your users. You've got to migrate over from one solution to the next. You have to redefine your processes. You have to invest a bunch of money and time, right? You have to put other things on hold, maybe that are priorities. That's a big deal. So the pain's got to warrant that level of effort. So that's why pain is number 2. And the third one is process, specifically enrolling them into your discovery process. I always say, sell the discovery process, don't sell the solution. So what does selling the discovery process look like? Well, it looks like if you know that you're with Power and they have pain, you give them your process and you enroll them into actually following your process. So let me share what that looks like, okay? If I'll use Salesforce for an example, if I find a client that has a major issue with, major pain, let's just use Service Cloud. I'm making this up as we go. Service Cloud. They have poor customer retention. They have low customer satisfaction, low CSAT, low NPS. And we're trying to deploy a new call center desktop for their agents to give better support and for their customers to be able to get self-service. Okay, that's what Service Cloud is in a nutshell. It's like Zendesk. But anyway, the process would be, well, here's what our process looks like. We're going to shadow your agents across the various channels that you support. We'll shadow the call center, we'll shadow the social team, we'll shadow the chat team to see what they're doing, see what tools they're using, see how long it takes, diagnose the problem, okay? We're going to talk to a couple customers and go through that experience and become a customer potentially, see what it's like, how easy it is to get support, how easy it is to get your questions answered. Then we're going to create a custom demo where we're going to do an assessment of your technology stack to see what you need to replace, what you need to integrate, and how this is going to fit into your architecture. We want to make sure this works. That's called a technical win. And then we're going to get together and do a business case. And a business case is going to show you the impact of making this change. How much time are you going to save in terms of your agent productivity? If it takes them 5 minutes to respond to a customer inquiry, if we can get down to 4, if we can reduce it by 25%, right? If we can shave a minute, or 20%, if we could shave a minute off that time, then we spread that around a call center of 1,000 different agents, a minute per call times how many calls. We're talking about realistically saving tens of millions of dollars if you save the productivity by 20%, okay? Next thing we'll look at is how many calls can we deflect or prevent from happening in the first place. Call deflection. If we can give customers a way to get the answer without having to call into the call center, that will be a huge load where you don't even need as many agents and you can actually cut your cost of outsourcing. So we're going to do an assessment. We're going to look at what we can do and we'll show you a custom business case. So a technical win, a business case win. That process, we're going to need to interview people, shadow people, collect some data around your financials. All that is going to take time and energy and effort on your behalf. Here's what that looks like. And you spell out what that discovery process looks like. It might be 2 months of discovery. Realistically, if you're selling to a big enterprise, it might be a month. It might be a couple days workshop. It doesn't matter. It depends on what you're selling, right? It depends on your process. It depends on what you're selling. It depends on a lot of factors. But the simple explanation is you need to sell that process and get them to enroll in that process. And if you do that and they're willing, and if you're at Power and they have pain, you get the top level person to sponsor it and to tell their team and to ideally put a project manager or an analyst or someone to help you facilitate the meetings. Every big deal I've done has had this process. Mike Fiasconi, he's my head sales coach. He was doing a training last week on strategic selling, and every big deal he's had has had this process. Jamal Raymer, it's all the same. Go high, go down, complete your discovery, go back up. I call it a yo-yo sell. But selling the discovery process to Power and getting their commitment to come back and meet with them and review the findings is the way you'll weed out how serious they are. Because if they're not willing to commit to a discovery, if they're not willing to actually show you their world, you think they're going to buy your solution? You think they're going to have the time and effort and energy to actually adopt it and change what they're doing? Heck no. Okay? So that's the key. Once you've enrolled them in your discovery process, you're going to get enough insights. You're going to get enough data. You're going to get enough information where you almost every time are going to be able to prove out and be able to justify your solution. You're going to show how it's going to fit in their environment, and you're going to show the metrics and the the data to support the outcomes that they want, whether it's improving CSAT or deal win rate in the examples that I gave you, or customer retention or profitability. You got to understand what those metrics are that they care about and then put that in the business case. That is the discovery process. It's get the information to show the technical win, which is a custom demo, and the business win, which is a business case. And that is the P, the final P, process. So there you have it. You got power, you got pain, and you got process. If your deals don't have those things, then you got to fill in the gaps. Now, if you really want to assess whether your deal is likely to win, I put together a scorecard where you can score your deals along with a lot of questions that you can get inside of the scorecard. Okay, questions that you can ask that will help you uncover any gaps that you have in the sales cycle. It's called PREDICT. P stands for problem with pain. R is for reason. E is for engaged. D is for decision maker. I is for impact. C is for cost of inaction, and T is for timeline. So it's a lot more in depth than the P's, but it's a full scorecard where it has questions around those key areas so you can see if you can predict whether or not your deal is going to close. So if you want to get the scorecard, I'll put a link here. You can download it, or you can watch the video above here for a full training on how to use PREDICT for your deals to predict whether or not they're going to close. I'm Ian Koniak. Thank you so much for listening. Hope you guys have a wonderful day.